What the Falcons do? Rise up. Welcome to Rise Up Reactions, the show where we talk all things Falcons, NFL, Georgia sports, and in general the sports news of the day. I'm your host, Dr. Lee Denning. And today I'm kind of continuing on with the NFL predictions for the 2022 season. It's still very early in the offseason, but pretty much all the teams have their acquisitions or in training camps at this point. I've already talked in depth about the NFC, and now it's time to move on to the AFC. I'm probably going to save the AFC North for the very end, primarily because there's a lot of turmoil going on with the Cleveland Browns, and the outcome of that will drastically change how I feel about that entire division. But either way, we're going to start with what I think is a much more clear-cut division in the AFC East. So, starting out with the AFC East, you're going to start out with the New England Patriots, the bane of Atlanta's existence, the 28-3 memes. Tom Brady, the bad man, all the things for the last 2 decades. They have been the boogeymen of the NFL. And finally, they're starting to show some humanity here under Bill Belichick. They were pretty good overall last year. I think they surprised a lot of people with Mac Jones going 10-7. I certainly didn't think they were going to be that good. And this year, I think they're going to have a lot of regression. I don't think that's going to be necessarily Mac Jones' fault, but I think it's primarily because they have a pretty frickin' tough schedule here. So just looking at their 50-50 games, they have Miami twice, which Miami is much improved than they were. They've got the Jets, much improved. They've got Baltimore, Cleveland, again, depending on what happens there, Indianapolis, Minnesota, Arizona, Las Vegas. You've got the Bills twice. You've got Green Bay. You've got Cincinnati. Those last 3 teams, I don't think they beat at all. So at their ceiling, just assuming, I don't think they're going to win all these games that are 50-50. I think they only go 10-7 at their best, and their floor is honestly 5-12. If they have a really bad year, some of these other teams finally rise to the occasion, it could be a very bad year for Bill Belichick. Probably the first time in a long time that he's just had a god-awful season. And I don't know that it's going to be any of the players' faults. I think they're going to be very competitive in a lot of their games because they do have some additions like, Cole Strange, Tyquan Thornton, Marcus Jones, Pierre Strong Jr. guys they got in the draft. Then they've also added Trent Brown, Devontae Parker, Malcolm Butler, and James White re-signed his contract as well. So they still have some talent returning, but they also lost some guys. They lost Shaq Mason, Kyle Van Noy, J.C. Jackson, Ted Karras. So there's a lot of talent shift there. And again, their schedule is just so tough. I don't know that they end up doing very well this year, especially as the division improved dramatically, and then they have probably what's considered one of the worst drafts overall for the 2022 year. So moving on, you've got the Dolphins. The Dolphins, again, they're going to be a very interesting team to watch this year. They did get rid of Brian Flores as their coach. I thought that was a terrible move. Brian Flores had done nothing but turn them from a crappy franchise into a winning franchise. There's a lot of allegations that go along with that. I don't want to get into any of that here, but they did add probably the most interesting coach in the carousel this offseason in Mike McDaniel, a guy who doesn't like he should be in football at all, 5'9", 180 pounds, and just looks like a wiry nerd out there as a coach, but he has a great resume behind him. He's from the Kyle Shanahan coaching tree. He was with the Atlanta Falcons back in 15 and 16 when the Atlanta Falcons had probably their best offense altogether under Kyle Shanahan. And then he has followed Shanahan to the 49ers and been an offensive assistant, and then last year was their offensive coordinator. And again, he's done very well with that team and following Kyle Shanahan's lead there. So he'll be an interesting coaching hire for him. I think they're going to be better under him overall. But again, they have a ton of talent they've added. They got Tyreek Hill in a blockbuster deal. They just signed Xavier Howard to a brand new deal. They picked up Teron Armstead off of the Saints in free agency, probably the best offensive lineman in free agency this year. They also got Chase Edmonds, which I think is a steal, and then Connor Williams. And then also they got Emmanuel Ogbah and Sony Michel. And then really they didn't have much in the way of draft picks because of the Tyreek Hill deal. But they did manage to get Channing Tindall out of UGA as a linebacker, who is a very underrated guy. I think he probably should have been a mid-late second-round pick, and he fell to them in the 3rd round. So I think he's going to be very good on an already halfway decent team. They lost a lot of close games last year, including they had 7 games in a row that they lost last year to start the season, which never should have happened. That won't be the case this year. So as their ceiling, I have a 12-5 ceiling. I don't know that that's going to be good enough to win the division, but it certainly could be. I have them at 6-11 for the floor. I don't see them hitting that at all. I think a much more reasonable pick is going to be 10-7. And again, they've got New England twice, the Jets, Buffalo, Green Bay, Baltimore, Minnesota, Cleveland, San Francisco, the Chargers, Cincinnati. So not the easiest schedule, but again, I think they're also going to be the team that people look on their schedule and are like, oh God, I just don't know how that's going to go. So the Dolphins are probably the most interesting team to potentially compete for a playoff spot in this division. Moving on to a team that I don't think is going to compete for playoffs, but is on the rise and will in the next 3 to 5 years, and be probably a really good team for the next 3 to 5 years. Then you got the New Jersey Jets. If they can have a winning season, I will relegate them back to the New York Jets. But for the time being, they play in New Jersey and they're crappy, so they are the Jersey Jets. And their 50-50 games include Baltimore, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Miami, Denver, New England twice, Buffalo once. They could steal one from them, and then they also get Minnesota. They do have some weaker opponents in Jacksonville, Chicago, Detroit, and Seattle, so those are 4 games I think are pretty winnable overall. And I do think they split a few of those 50-50 games, and they've got a few games that they're going to lose almost no matter what they do. But, guys that they've added on, C.J. Uzoma, Laken Tomlinson, Dan Feeney, Jacob Martin, and then in the draft, they had probably the best draft of any team in the NFL this year. They picked up Sauce Gardner right at the beginning, 4th pick overall. Great corner with their division getting better at wide receiver overall. They needed somebody at corner to be a shutdown guy. I don't know if he'll be that to start with. Corner typically takes about a year or 2 to really develop in the NFL. Just look at A.J. Terrell for the Falcons. He had a really horrendous first year, and then last year, as his second year, he was one of the top 5 corners in the league. So, again, I think it'll take him some time, but he'll be good there. Other guys they picked up, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Jermaine Johnson fell to them they traded up to get him 27th overall. He should have been a top 15 pick, and he fell to them as a linebacker / edge rusher. Jeremy Ruckert, tight end, Max Mitchell. They're going to be really good. They are building the team the right way, and this is going to be the year that there's no excuses for Zach Wilson. He had better step up. If he doesn't step up, they're going to be looking to move on within the next 2 years at quarterback. Notable losses for him include Jamison Crowder, Shaq Lawson, Marcus May, Morgan Moses, and then Gerard Davis. But again, not major losses to the team overall, and what they did lose, they replaced. So I think they're going to be better this year. I look forward to watching Jets games. First time I think I can say that in a long time. Their ceiling, I don't think it's going to be more than 10-7. I don't know that they hit the ceiling, but they could. If they're 10-7, they're competing for a playoff spot. But I don't think that's going to happen. 7-10, I think, is a reasonable floor for them. And then I think 8-9 is probably where I see them. I don't think they quite have a winning season this year. I think they're going to lose a couple of close games that prevent that from happening. But they are on the rise. The Jets are a team that in fantasy you want some pieces of going forward. And then finally, you have the Buffalo Bills, arguably a team that had they not blown up in the last 13 seconds of the AFC divisional round, probably would have gone on to play in the Super Bowl, and I think probably, unfortunately, as much as I love Stafford, would have beaten the Rams. So Buffalo is probably the strongest team overall in the AFC at this point. I think they overtake the Kansas City Chiefs as the number 1 overall team for the AFC this year, and they are my pick to really make a deep playoff run and potentially go to and win the Super Bowl this year. So 50-50 games they have. Because they finished so well last year, they do have to play the Rams. They have Baltimore, they have Kansas City, Green Bay, Miami, Cincinnati, New England, New Jersey, the Jets. I don't know. There's not a lot of games that I see them losing, and even some of these 50-50 games, I look for them to probably be, like a 55-45 favorite for a large number of them. Notable additions to the team, Jamison Crowder, he's replacing Cole Beasley. They extended Diggs. You've got Mitch Morse. O.J. Howard is coming in, and I think he's going to have a renaissance of a career where he wasn't really used appropriately in Tampa Bay. Shaq Lawson, and then the big one, the big defensive acquisition, Von Miller. Now, Von Miller is up there in age at this point for an NFL standpoint. He's in his early 30s. Most linebackers don't play past their early mid-30s, and he just got, I think it was a $120 million deal over the next 3 or 4 years. Probably overpaid him, but he did play a major role in the Rams' win for their Super Bowl run, and then he also played a major role for Denver as the heart of that defense the entire time he was there. He's still a great player. He's got a lot of gas left in the tank. He should be a great addition to that team. And then, losses. Again, they lost Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, Levi Wallace, and Mitch Trubisky. They really didn't lose a whole lot overall. And I think they're a team that could certainly put it together and have a great year. So, how do I think it finishes out? I think you're going to end up with the Buffalo Bills being the clear number one team, not only in the division, but the AFC. Miami Dolphins, I do think, will have a surprising run and finish second with probably possibly a playoff spot. If they underperform, I think they miss the playoffs just by a hair, just like they've done the last few seasons. If they perform to their ability, I think they're the number 5 seed overall because they can't be anything higher if the Bills win out. So Miami is second. The Jets, I actually think, will finish ahead of the Patriots. The Patriots, I think their ceiling is 10-7. Again, 4, 5, and 12, and I think they go 7-10 this year. So with the 8 and 9 Jets, that would just edge them over the Patriots. And for the first time in over 2 decades, the Patriots end up finishing last in their division. Do I think that's going to last forever? No, but this is going to be a really fun division going forward. So that's just what I think. If you agree with me, would love for you to hit the like button, consider subscribing. If you disagree with me, please comment down below. Would love to hear your criticisms. Would love to hear any thoughts you have. If you're a Dolphins fan, do you think you're going to be better than the Bills this year? If you're a Bills fan, are you going to run over everybody? If you're a New England Patriots fan, yeah, we don't want to hear from you. But, we still, we'll accept what you have to say, but I don't think you're going to be very good this year. And Jets, guys, you should be on the rise this year. I think you're going to be a lot better. I think you can finally be proud to buy Jets jerseys again. But until next time, that's all I got for you today. And as always, rise up.